There's a saying that nobody ever got fired for buying from IBM. And while this might be true for a very small number of large professional services firms, the reality is that for most cases, for most small firms, boutique firms, even mid-sized firms, the brand is not nearly as important as the individual inside of that firm. They're not buying from Trident partners, they're buying from Paul or Louise. And yet most firms approach marketing by highlighting the company. And there's reasons why they do this. Some of them are very good ones. But in my opinion, firms need to start thinking about the partners or the managing directors within the firm as sub-brands in and of themselves, distinct from the company, but part of the company, and design strategies to increase their visibility. Why is it important to invest in the personal brands of your partners or managing directors? First, I think that people tend to engage and follow people rather than brands on organic channels. Think about the posts that you see most often on LinkedIn or on Instagram or that kind of thing. Think about the ones that you tend to like or comment on or share with your own network. There's a really good chance that it was published on a personal account and not a company account. This could just be because we like engaging with people more than faceless corporations. It could be because the tone of voice is a little more casual, a little more personal, a little more opinionated than the corporate brand, which tends to often water things down and as a result makes their copy a little bit more vanilla than it would be from an individual. But whatever the reason, this ends up having a big impact in terms of reach. All of these platforms are algorithmic in nature, and they look at liking, commenting, sharing as signals to determine whether or not they should show a particular piece of content to more people. And so as a result, you end up getting more reach and awareness for your brand. This brings us to point number 2, which is that personal accounts tend to have more followers than corporate accounts in many cases, if not on an individual basis, certainly in an aggregate basis. And so if you think about the typical boutique firm, in most cases, if you were to add up the number of people on LinkedIn, for example, that are following their respective partners, let's say you have 3 partners in your firm, there's a really good chance that the number of followers in aggregate of those 3 partners' accounts exceeds that of the corporate brand, unless you've been very, very aggressive about trying to build up the corporate page presence, which in most cases is not true. The other nice thing about this is that there is a combinatorial effect. While the Venn diagram between one partner, between partner A and partner B, there might be some overlap there in terms of same audience. In most cases, they have disparate networks, which is beneficial to you as well. Another reason to invest in the personal brands of your team, I think it's a competitive advantage for attracting talent. Boutique firms don't necessarily have the same kinds of perks that a larger firm would. But if you could go to them and say, as a result of being at our firm, if you spend the next 5 years of your life here, we have a system for manufacturing trusted advisors at scale, and you will be much more well-known in your space. So whether you decide that you want to continue your career here or whether you want to go somewhere else, you'll come out of this not only with some reps and some cool client projects to work on, but you will become known as an expert in your domain. That's a very, very compelling reason to choose company A over company B. And then finally, it's useful for you as a firm in terms of thinking about career planning, succession planning, that kind of thing. It's not uncommon for firms as they grow to run into issues with like the associate to director to the VP to managing director kind of progression, and specifically getting people who are not currently revenue generating to become revenue generating. And so this is a low risk, high upside way to help your directors, help your VPs build up their own book of business over time, because they're going to become trusted advisors. And relative to other director level talent that might not be as active on platforms like LinkedIn, might not be sharing their insights or their unique thoughts as often as these other people, as a result of doing this, they're going to have larger networks, and they're going to have networks of people who have come to think of them as an expert in their industry and their discipline, that kind of thing, much more likely than they would in other firms. And so as you're thinking about maybe you've been in a founder-led sale for most of your firm's lifetime, and you're trying to figure out how do we get that next level to become revenue generating in their own right, this is a great passive way to do it that does not necessarily take them away from their primary focus, which is delivering work and managing maybe associate level talent in the delivery of that work. One of the more common objections that comes up when I talk about this idea is this idea of like key person risk. What if we make this investment in building up the personal brands of our team and then they jump ship and they go somewhere else? And for me, it's similar to the argument against training. What if we train these people to be amazing and then they they leave. And my rebuttal is always, what if we don't train them and then they stay? It is true, hopefully, that they will become more visible as a result of you making this investment. But A, that's the entire point. B, if they become more visible and as a result become revenue generating, they probably are worth paying more, right? Because now they're contributing more value to the firm. That's a good problem to have. C, it's another reason why having a strong point of view is so important. It's not just a tool to attract clients, but it's a tool to attract and retain talent. If you make that investment in people and you pay them well and they're increasing in their visibility, and as a result, the career trajectory, their career ladder, the slope of it is changing as a result of this investment that you're helping them make on their behalf, that's a strong incentive for them to stick around, not a strong incentive for them to leave. Because if they go to that other firm, the other firm might pay them a little bit more money, but they probably aren't going to make a similar type of investment in their personal brand. And so I don't think it's necessarily a fear to worry about, and I think the upsides far outweigh the downsides. Another objection is this seems like an awful lot of work. So, our marketing team is already overstretched. We already are having to create content on behalf of the firm, and now you're asking us to create content or help these people kind of build personal brands themselves. And I agree with that. It's one of the reasons why Madison exists, is we've designed an authority marketing program specifically to address this issue for people. And basically, the mechanism is we get on the phone with them once a month. We let them do a brain dump. We help them translate that into a bunch of short form content in their own words with their own ideas and allow them to focus on what they do best. But you can replicate our system internally. If you have amazing writers who really understand your domain, I wouldn't let that be a reason to stop you from doing this either. I would encourage you not to just invest in your team's knowledge, but invest in their brands as well. I think it's a competitive advantage from a marketing standpoint. It creates a team of trusted advisors, and people buy professional services from trusted advisors. So it's a way for you to manufacture those advisors at scale. It's a huge advantage, I think, from a recruiting and retention standpoint. I just think it has very high upside, very little downside, and it actually takes a lot less time than you think. The best time to start doing this was, of course, 2 years ago. The second best time is today.